288-9227, 1-800-288-WBAP. All right. Oh, by the way, before I forget, San Francisco, just so you can sleep tonight, because I know you've been tossing and turning and flailing about, night fits, as they say, waking up, covered in sweat, bed torn apart, trying to, come to terms with this. But don't worry about Columbus Day anymore, because San Francisco has officially changed Columbus Day to Indigenous People Day. You know, the indigenous people, right? San Francisco's Board of Supervisors, they voted yesterday to rename Columbus Day in all of San Francisco with Indigenous People Day. Now, it doesn't trip off the tongue as easily as Columbus Day, but it's to honor the Native Americans here before Columbus discovered America. Okay, well, that makes absolutely no sense. Not that anything in California necessarily makes sense, but then you should come up with another holiday, Native American Day. How about that? If, in fact, you're renaming Columbus Day with Indigenous People Day to honor the Native Americans, that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, is Columbus Day even a holiday anymore? I don't think it is, because he was a bad guy, right? Is that the deal? Everybody hates him because he was a bad person, or
I think so, but he didn't discover America.
Raped and pillaged.
Weren't the Spanish here in the 1500s?
I don't know. I wasn't around.
Well, let's go out there. Let's just fly out there.
What happened to Columbus Day? That's all I want to know. I mean, it's like, what? It's a Monday holiday, Columbus Day. No. The Native Americans were here first, so it's Native American Day. Well, they're two completely different things, right? So, you know what? Just get rid of all these Monday holidays. All they're doing is coming up with stuff so they can take Monday off. Columbus Day. Who celebrates that? Have you hung your Columbus Day stockings by the fireplace with care? Have you done that? All right. Okay. Hey, don't forget, we gotta make a midnight mass for Columbus Day. It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. It's Native Americans. Yeah, I think they got the short end of the stick. Hey, we're here to help you. Get on this reservation. What?
By the way, we do not get Columbus Day off here. I just looked at the studio calendar.
It's because it's not a holiday. Doesn't make any sense.
If there's not a Hallmark card for it, then it's not a holiday.
Oh, they got a card for everything. they got a card for everything. But California renaming holidays. I don't know who would be mad about seeing Columbus Day go. No, it doesn't matter to me. I could care less. Malaya Cohen, is that her name? She's a member on the board there in San Francisco. She led the legislation. What a leader. What a fine county supervisor in San Francisco. It was voted on 10-1 in favor of the change. Aaron Peskin, representing the historically Italian North Beach neighborhood, he was the sole vote against the change. Some Italian Americans bristled at the vote. What was that? Bristled at the vote and said they're losing this holiday, and it means they won't be able to celebrate their unique heritage as Italians. Okay. This is an insult to the Italians who have done so much for the city of San Francisco. Okay, you know what? Nobody cares. Leave it Columbus Day, call it Native American Day. Call it, I think the Vikings were here first day. I don't care. It's not a holiday anyway. All right. What? Really? Okay. George in Fort Worth. George, thanks for waiting. How you doing, George?
I'm doing very well, Rick. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
So when the mafia goes out to San Francisco, do they say forget about it, or what's going to happen to the board of directors out there?
Hey, yeah, say hello to my little friend. Yeah, it's just silly. I mean, this is what these people get paid tax dollars to do. sit around and change the name of holiday. Well, we can't celebrate Columbus Day. You know, he was really a mean guy. And the Native Americans were here first. Well, then come up with another holiday, Native American Day. How's that work?
Another Monday holiday.
There you go.
I really called about the DOJ and the FBI. I am beyond angry.
Now, there's something that needs to be renamed right there.
Oh, Department of Injustice?
Yes.
Federal Bureau of Insubordination?
There you go.
I don't know. So tell me, what can we do about this? I mean, we're going to have to sit and wait for how long before some of this really hits out, and will the drive-by media ever publish it?
I don't think they're going to be able to ignore this this memo. I don't think they'd be too much is preceding it as far as the people that know what's in it. This is going to shock all of America. This is something we've never seen before. And it's not an easy thing to release this memo that everybody's concerned about. They're saying it'll probably be released probably mid-March.
Mid-March.
Yeah, it's because it's got to go through a vote, I think 2 votes, and then to the president's desk. And if he says, yeah, fine, then they release it. But he can't do it by himself. No one can do it by themselves because of, the whole nature of that spy business and everything else. But, I can't imagine anything. Well, I went through 8 years of Obama. I can't imagine anything in that memo that's going to shock me. The FBI, there was a secret group that were working against Trump on the direction of Hillary Clinton. That wouldn't even shock me. I don't know.
Here's my problem. What I'm here, and tell me, the government's like Swiss cheese. This thing leaks like Swiss cheese. So don't tell me that there's not a copy of the memo out there in circulation somewhere. But the other thing is, I'm hearing that committee members are saying it was made by a Republican for the Republicans, and it's just another piece of propaganda. That's what I've heard 2 or 3 times already.
Well,
yes, no?
Yeah, I can't go along with that 100% just based on what I've read. Now, they can be lying to me, George.
Well, that would be new.
It wouldn't be the first. I mean, I was born at night, but not last night. I'm not laboring under some sad misconception that that's not a distinct possibility. But Republicans are saying they're really, really hopeful that this memo, I think it's 4 pages, allegedly containing their words, not mine, jaw-dropping revelations about U.S. government surveillance abuse will soon be made public. The reason I don't think the lamestream media will sit on this is because too much has been released on it so far. It's sort of like everybody's heard the setup for the joke, but they've got the punchline. Well, most these lamestream media outlets are going to fall over themselves trying to be the first one to release it.
Wow. Rick, thank you very much. Continue the good work, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. 2:12 the time. Happy Native American Columbus was a bad guy day. As a matter of fact, this whole memo thing, and George might have been right. In this day and age of instantaneous information, you would think that somebody would have spilled the beans on this, right? Representative Dave Joyce, I think he's from Ohio. He said that the Intelligence Committee plans to work on releasing the document, but he warned. Now, I don't know how much of this is literary license by somebody, trying to move up the ladder with, his writing skills or lack thereof, or how much of it is true reporting. But he warned that once Americans see it, they're going to be surprised how bad it is. See, I differ with that viewpoint. I don't think you would be surprised to hear or see anything that comes out of government or the FBI. I just don't. All right. 13 minutes after the hour, 2:13 the time. I'm Rick Roberts. You're next. All right, 19 minutes after the hour. Glad you're along. 2:19 the time. 1-800-288-9227. 1-800-288-WBAP. Man, I got a ton of stuff to go through today. This is one of those days when we just need to start the show and it ends when it ends, right? One of those, we could be here, somebody bringing in sandwiches. We could be here all day. Let me get to your calls. Let's go to Tom in Weatherford. Tom, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Tom?
Oh, you're welcome. I'm doing good. Hope
Good.
you are.
I am. Thank you.
Just had a FYI. The first people here were the Norse Vikings. They came in through the Great Lakes into what is now Minnesota and Iowa, and they have found, and that's been proven because they found anchor stones up there that were left from when they were here. And some of my friends say I know that because I was old enough to be there, but be that as it may.
So vis-a-vis the Happy Norseman Day, I guess.
Yeah. Yes.
I've actually heard that, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and the only people I know that really celebrated Columbus Day were Catholic schools, because when I was in school, Catholic kids got off for Columbus Day.
What were, forgive me, this is wide open radio, I guess. What were the Knights of Columbus? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. It's from what I understand, it was like it's the Catholic version, I guess, of the Masons and the Shriners.
Yeah, it's a benevolent society of some sort for Catholics. Yeah, okay. So that's what the Knights
I don't know why it was named for Columbus, but I just know that, that's what they were.
Yeah. I have no idea. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for that information and education. By the way, have you watched that, what is it, on Discovery, Vikings, that show Vikings? It's horrible. I mean, it truly is. It's horrible.
I know. I watched one or two segments, and I couldn't take it. It was just, hey, this is...
Yeah, it's just a horrible show. Evidently, according to Vikings, the show, all they ever did was braid their hair and stab people. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Tom, I appreciate the call very much. Let's go to Ed in Dallas. Ed, how you doing?
Yeah, I got Flynn.
Ed?
Hello?
Am I interrupting something, Ed?
I was talking to the pharmacist. I'm feeling a little under the weather.
Oh, man, sorry.
We'll talk about this board of advisors. Who in the hell selects these people to advise anybody to do anything? And why in the hell do they need advisors?
Oh, come on. So you're saying
I know it's I know it's San Francisco. It's San Francisco, and I know they can't think for themselves because they're a bunch of drones. But God Almighty, you don't have anything like that in Dallas. So,
well, we've got some council people that I wonder all the time, based on some of the stuff they're involved with, how do they even find their way to work? But that's a different story. Yeah, evidently in San Francisco, their biggest problem is Columbus Day, so they rectified that, and now everything's fine.
No, good God! I mean, it's just another bureaucracy to take taxpayer money out to pay some jerk face that got appointed by somebody who doesn't even know what the heck the job can be qualified for. How can somebody pick somebody to be qualified to do that kind of job in the first place?
I have no idea.
Crap.
I have no. But we're going to talk about California in just a second. But I'm more concerned with your physical state. Are you okay? I mean, what's wrong with you?
Well, when I cough, my lungs hurt bad, so the pharmacist just recommended something for me. So
don't mess around with that, man. Don't be trying to find over-the-counter stuff. I had the same thing. I get bronchitis every year. It's because you breathe different when you talk behind a microphone. And I went as long as I could, and then I got to where I couldn't walk across the room. And I thought, well, I get bronchitis every year for a couple decades, it's just a bad case. And then I finally broke down and went to the doctor, had pulmonary edema and heart failure. So don't screw around with it, Ed. Especially, you can't turn on the news without finding out more people have succumbed to the flu, and now they've got a measles outbreak. Did you hear about that? Yeah. Did you put two and two together on the Latin American kids that were coming in 2 summers ago, and diseases that we wiped out in the 50s all of a sudden were making a comeback? Yeah, could have knocked me over with a feather. Of course, the people in D.C. aren't worried about that. Ed, best of health to you, my friend. Let's go to Lee in Denton. Lee, how you doing?
Hey, Rick, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Yeah, listen, to continue on some information here, we already have a Native American Day. It's called Thanksgiving. Just look at the food that we eat on Thanksgiving. You've got the turkey, which is a Native American bird
Right.
that was here in this country, not in Europe. And then you go from there. I don't know if you know too much about cranberries. But
I like them. I don't know much about them, but I do like them. I eat cranberries all year long.
Well, they're a domesticated plant over there in Massachusetts. There, they have all these cranberry bogs. They're like little ponds that the Native Americans made to grow cranberries. And they were growing, and if you in those days, if a pilgrim went out and went into the cranberry bog and got some cranberries, he got a chance of getting killed. That's how much they owned.
Well,
the
Lee,
industry, you know?
you're forgetting the staple of Thanksgiving, corn, or as my people call it, maize. Yeah, you don't forget about that. You got to have that. All right, enough about San Francisco and changing Columbus Day. But I want to stay in that general area for just a little bit with you. You know, the Democrats keep pushing back saying, no, we don't want these illegals coming in to create new voting blocks. What are you talking about? That's crazy. That's not what we want. Really? Well, how about California's new policy allowing illegal immigrants to vote? Illegal immigrants in California could soon be voting thanks to a new policy that will start automatically registering adults who get or renew a driver's license. And of course, they've been giving driver's licenses to illegals since 2015. And this is not the bad part. I mean, California, I don't care what they do. But the bad part is other states are getting ready to follow suit. Well, then why are we even talking about a wall or borders or anything else if we're just going to allow anybody to, hey, welcome to America. Here's your voter card. All right, 2:33 the time. This is the Court of Public Opinion. Your voice, your opinion, your attitude on the issues of the day. By the way, guys, somebody just emailed me. He's a Knights of Columbus member. So he sent me a whole thing about all that. Well, thank you very much. I obviously don't have time to read it now, but I will. One of my pet peeves, I suppose, or maybe a personality trait, I can't stand to not know something if I know that I don't know it. I mean, obviously, if I don't know anything about it, it doesn't bother me. But I know nothing about Knights of Columbus, and now I've got a resource, so I appreciate it. All right. Now, what I do know is that you're not supposed to vote in this country unless you're an American citizen. I know. That's not fair. That's racist, Rick. Well, a lot of people think so. Illegal immigrants in California could soon be voting. I'm not making this up. This is not, I know this sounds crazy. It sounded crazy to me the first time I heard it. Let me give you a little backstory. When I was broadcasting out of San Diego, we had a Governor Gray Davis, and the guy was trying to hang on to his job. He was just a pathetic mess. I mean, he truly was. So he, and I think it was SB 60. I can't recall. But I had on, as a guest, the original director of Homeland Security. Help me out with that. We used to call him Skeletor. I can't remember, but I had him on as a guest. We were talking about something, and I brought up SB 60, and there was this long pregnant pause, and he said, well, I can't get into that right now. Well, we go to break. This guy comes unglued. Are you looking up? No, not Tom Ridge. Gosh. Well, help me out. Just give me a list of names here. Yeah, we'll find it. He comes unglued. How dare you ambush me on the air? And I said, excuse me? Then he goes, with this whatever bill you're talking about in California. And then I went crazy. I said, excuse me, Mr. Homeland Security Director, I'm a talk show host. No, I asked him, I said, how would I know that you knew nothing about a bill in the state of California that was prepared to give driver's licenses, what are also known as breeder documents, to people that come here illegally? How could you not know that? Well, we went back and forth and back and forth. I still can't believe he didn't know. But anyway, he never came back on the show. Governor Gray Davis, in an effort to save his job, was preparing to give driver's licenses to illegals. So that should tell you right there were a ton of illegals in California, still are. Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger was positioned to take over the governorship of California. Really, Maria Shriver had more to do with it than Arnold did. I got Maria Shriver hooked up with she had an organization called Remarkable Women for Arnold campaign. And I got her hooked up with some woman restaurant owner in San Diego. So I ended up doing a lot of work with the Schwarzeneggers, primarily Maria first, and then myself and Richard Reardon and a bunch of different people would meet Arnold every other weekend in a different banquet hall at some hotel and strategize the recall. And we were successful. We got Governor Gray Davis recalled. It worked very well. Of course, what didn't work very well was after he got to be governor, the liberal stripe came out to play. But having said that, it goes all the way back to 2013, 14, 15. Now, California, since 2015, has been granting driver's licenses to immigrants. Notice they don't say illegal, to immigrants living illegally in the state. So let me make that clear. Even though Gray Davis was gone, they still found the state legislature still found a way to pull this off. So for the last 3 years, 36 months, California has been granting driver's licenses to immigrants living illegally in the state. An estimated 1 million of those immigrants are believed to have obtained a license by the end of last year. Well, under the new system, which begins April 1st, that's April Fool's Day, how apropos, anyone who has already a valid license and applies for renewal in person or by mail can be added to the voter registration rolls by claiming they are legal. That's all. They just have to claim it. The only way drivers who say they are legal won't have their information sent automatically to the state voter rolls under the latest implementation of it's called the California Motor Voter Act, is if they opt out. Well, if you're illegal, who's going to opt out? I mean, just follow that chain. Does that make sense? Which opens the door to the potential of widespread voter fraud, and California doesn't seem to care. Let me go to James. James may have the name I'm looking for. James, how you doing?
Pretty good, Rick. How you doing?
Good.
I first want to say I've been listening to you since you were out in San Diego, even though I'm a native Texan.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I got turned on to you back in 2006, 2007 with the Ramos and Copion shooting.
Yeah, the Border Patrol agents that were shot. Sure. Yeah.
I listen to podcasts off of your other station out there every once in a while.
Yeah, well, listen, I appreciate that.
I remember listening to Andy Ramirez and Mr. Peterson, Reverend Peterson. I love listening to that guy.
Yeah, I had him on this show just the other day.
Yeah, I heard it. Skeletor is Michael Chertoff.
Chertoff, that's it. Michael Chertoff, yeah. Man, I am not on his Christmas card list.
I don't think I am either.
Yeah, he went berserk on me. He was, it was a sit-down interview, and when I do interviews with these guys, I ask the questions that I'm hoping most people would ask. I don't throw a lot of softballs. And Chertoff lost his mind. I really thought the black Suburbans were going to be escorting me home. He went crazy. How dare you bring up something to ambush me? And I said, Mr. Chertoff, you're the Homeland Security Director. If you don't know about SB 60, then we got a problem, don't we? And he said, well, you should have told me you were going to talk about that. I don't know anything. I have to be briefed. Wait a minute. You have to be briefed? SB 60 gives illegals driver's licenses, which are breeder documents. You're the Director of Homeland Security, and you need to be briefed? And at that point, it just went bad to worse. So
Yeah, it sounds like it. Too bad you don't have some kind of audio on that so we can all hear it.
No, I think I do someplace, yeah.
Uh-oh. One last thing, the Ohio congressman is not Jim Joyce, because Jim Joyce is a baseball umpire.
Right.
You're thinking of Jim Jordan.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to keep all these names in my head, but you're right. You're right. So you've been listening since 2006, 2007, huh?
Yes.
Well, I appreciate that.
I probably heard you on the other Dallas station, probably just don't remember it.
Yeah, that was a ways back. But yeah, Ramos and Campion, we had a lot of their relatives on, and we got the State Department involved. Well, if you listen to the show, you know. Two Border Patrol agents, and one was from worked at the San Ysidro border, I believe. I can't recall where the other.
I think they're the same one. I think it was Fabens.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Fabens, Texas.
Yeah, it was that was a rough thing to cover. That really was. That was.
Yeah, this still doesn't make sense today. I don't even think it makes sense to the two guys that were involved.
No,
and I have them as friends on Facebook.
Well, it's I don't know that it pains me to say this, but I don't know that we've progressed much since then.
I don't think we have.
It's sad. Those Border Patrol agents deserve a lot more support and respect than what they get. Listen, I appreciate it very much, James. Good to hear from you. Well, there you go. The state of California, through their new Motor Voter Registration Act, unless you're an illegal, excuse me. I know that by renewing my license or getting one, I'm automatically now registered to vote. And all you're going to do is ask me if I'm legal. Yes, I'm legal. I certainly am. Thank you very much. And I'll expect that voter ID any moment now. Why? Does this... we used to talk about the slippery slope. If we don't watch what we're doing, if we don't protect the integrity of a free and open ballot system, if we don't protect the sovereignty, sanctity, and security of this once great nation, we'll lose it. Well, here's California issuing driver's licenses to illegals and at the same time registering them to vote, and the only way they don't get to vote is if they opt out. Well, follow that line. Let me see. Let me get the calculator out. Follow that line of reasoning. What illegal is going to say, no, I don't need another breeder document. I'm fine. I'm good. Well, nobody's going to say that. You're setting the stage for a state disaster. They don't seem to have a process in place to verify that these people are who they say they are. And God knows we can't go with a photo ID because that's racist at its very core, right? Don't you know, Rick, black people can't get photo IDs. You take their picture and nothing shows up. I mean, you can't do that. It's a free-for-all, a process that can be manipulated. After looking at the operations of a number of DMV offices, they did a survey. Linda Payne, she's a co-founder of Election Integrity Project of California. Good luck. She was not confident that there are any safeguards in place to prevent illegal voter registration. And the sad part about this is other states in the United States are seemingly following suit. Why? Money. That's why. Do-re mi. That's what it's all about. Follow the Benjamins. You'll figure it out. Does this, what's the fate of America if this is allowed to proceed? Seriously, your call straight ahead. 1-800-288-WBAP. If you're an illegal alien and you want a driver's license, go to California, where they will automatically register you to vote. All you have to do is say, yeah, I'm legal. I'm fine. And that's it. That's it. Nothing else. You don't need a photo ID. You don't need anything. As a matter of fact, the Democrats are sending a bunch of buses to pick you up. There'll be a nice sack lunch. They'll drive you to the polls and give you the names to vote for. I'm Rick Roberts. Your call's next. All right, 2:51 the time. You know, if they just left the craziness in California, that's fine. Nobody expects much from California anyway in the way of common sense or responsibility for action. People are just walking around bumping into palm trees. I get it. But other states following suit with a new motor voter process wherein, yeah, we're going to give illegals driver's licenses. Number one, no, man, I fought against that. That was on my own nickel, going to those meetings weekend after weekend after weekend, strategizing the recall of Governor Gray Davis to install Schwarzenegger. I mean, after all that work, they end up doing what they want to anyway. So, yeah, we're going to give driver's licenses to, you know what a breeder document is? A driver's license is a primary breeder document. Breeder documents do just exactly what they say. They breed more documents, and then all of a sudden, you're illegal, and you've got a driver's license, birth certificate, social security card, this, that, and the other thing. We're going to give illegals driver's licenses, and at the same time, register them to vote unless they opt out. Well, what illegal is going to opt out? Oh, wait, I appreciate the license. I don't want to be registered to the voter rolls because I'm illegal. How many times do you think that's going to happen? So once we lose a free and open Democratic election, take it to the House. It's over with. All right, let's go to Craig in South Lake. Craig, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Craig?
Good, Rick. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Hey, I wanted to tell you that I think these California liberals don't understand the consequences of their decision. That I actually think this is a good thing. Because Craig here in Texas is now going to go to California, get a driver's license, and get automatically registered to vote in California. And then I'll file for an absentee ballot, and I'll be voting in the California next election.
So you're going to break the law just because they've made it, they've made it easy to do so, and you'll get to vote twice.
Sure, why not? And then when I tell two people and they tell two people and they tell two people, they'll have to come after about 65 million voters.
Look, any way you twist this thing, it's a disaster waiting to happen, is it not?
It is. It's a complete disaster. It's out of control. They've lost their minds.
They have absolutely, I've said that more times than I can count, but the lawmakers in California have literally lost their minds. And what about these other states that are following suit?
Well, they're just going to drive half the working population out of their states, and they'll be left with the unworking half of the population.
You know what their excuse was? So because they were confronted saying, wait a minute, you're setting the state up for disaster. You can't be doing this. Oh, well, we have checks and balances in place. Well, what are they? Well, it's already required by federal law. Anyone who registers to vote at the DMV must attest under penalty of perjury that they meet eligibility requirements. So it's already in place. Wait a minute. They broke the law by ignoring the immigration law to begin with, and you're telling me because there's something on the books that said just what I just said, that's your check and balance? It's incredible. It's incredible. It makes no sense whatsoever. All right, we're going to find out. Personally, I think that's the beginning of the end for the country. The country as we once knew it. A state as large as California Number one, giving driver's licenses to illegals. Well, it's a safety issue, Richard. Don't you know? We're trying to take care of if we can save just one life on the roadways. Okay, so they got that passed, and then some genius, and I bet you any amount of money it was a Democrat. If we go ahead and automatically register them to vote, unless they opt out, of course, we may be onto something here. That's the way it went down. I mean, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to figure this one out. And other states are following suit? You tell me, what's the future of the country if this is allowed to go forward?
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
All right, 5 minutes after the hour. As I look down the road in America, what's next? Allowing non-citizens to vote in elections. Who thinks that's a good idea? The next thing I know, I'm going to be coming in. Randy's going to have changed my open music.
Comrade Rick Roberts.
Yeah, there we go, comrade. Yeah, he'll have a little flag behind me with a hammer and sickle. Sure. Well, that's okay because most millennials think that's a better way to live anyway. Let's go to Rob in Louisville. Rob, thanks for waiting. I appreciate the patience. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for taking the call again.
You bet.
First, I'd like to say that we're all Native Americans. We were born here.
Okay.
And then the next thing, suggest a holiday for San Francisco, National Sodomy Day, which would make an interesting statue.
What? Wait, where did you come up with? What is that about?
Well, I want to get rid of Christopher Columbus.
I get it. Okay, sorry, I was a little slow on the uptake there. Because San Francisco, the stereotype is that it has so many homosexuals.
Exactly.
Okay. I got you. All right. I don't know that I would agree with that, but that's okay. Yeah, all right.
Well, it'd be an interesting statue.
Yes, it would be. It would be very interesting, Rob. And there would probably be a group that wanted that taken down as well. Rob, I appreciate it. Wow. What was that? National Sodomy Day. Yeah. Let's go to Celeste in she's calling from San Francisco. Is that right? Celeste, thank you for waiting. I'm assuming you disagree with that last caller.
Well, it doesn't matter what we think here. The conservatives, so they'd probably do it anyway. But I like Craig's idea. Tell him to get all his buddies and come do what he said. Come get all the good red-blooded Americans to come get driver's licenses from Texas, and that sounds like a great solution to our problem.
Wait a minute. You're from San Francisco, but you're a conservative.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you're an anomaly, I would imagine.
Well, there's a lot more of us in Orange County, but we're around. There's a lot of us in Alameda County, really, which is not that far from San Francisco.
No, you're right. So, are you listening on an app, or are you here in town on visit, or what?
No, I listen to you on the Red Eye app. I've called before.
Oh, okay. I got you. All right. Well, good to have you. What's going on?
It's worse than what people know. It's not just that they get driver's license, but obviously in our state, like most states, you have to have car insurance by law. But here, the illegals get it paid for, so it's comped. The legal residents of California, the citizens, pay for out of our taxes. We pay for free car insurance for illegals. And I don't mean like if you're trying to get citizenship here and you're from Mexico and you're doing it legally, you have to be an illegal. And when you want to take the driver's test, you can take, the written exam in Spanish and everything. And of course, their quote unquote logic for it is, what if they hit you and they don't have insurance? This is the more responsible thing to do. And of course, we've all been hit over, here. Just last year, I was near Studio City with my friend, and he did get hit by this lady. She had no license, no insurance. She was, some Mexican lady didn't speak English, and of course the cop felt sorry for her. But then again, they're not allowed to do anything really. It was a sanctuary city, but yeah, they still drive anyway. That's the thing is they still drive with no insurance. They still drive with no license. All it does is ruin it for other people. And then, like, yeah, you said with the voting laws, they'll obviously register them and all of that will happen. And it was definitely done on purpose, because La Raza is really big out here and they work with all the people here. And, but the other thing about California is a lot of people are just asleep at the wheel. You can ask average people and they don't even know what's going on in this state. If they say to me, oh, Celeste, why do you care? Or why do you get up in arms? Or what's wrong with people just trying to make a better life? And, well, what's wrong with the license? Then I'll tell them the insurance thing and they'll go, really? They don't even know. No one here knows. And so it's really just a few crazy people and everyone else is checked out who lives here, so. Well,
let me ask you, what do you do in San Francisco? Why do you, I worked out of San Diego, but I told them up front, I said, yeah, I'll do this, but I'm not going to raise my kids out here. So they had to,
you shouldn't.
They flew me back and forth every 10 days. I had no idea at the time I was going to be there for 17 years, but, why are you there? What do you do?
Well, I'm not literally in the city, but the funny thing about the city is actually there are very few people with kids. There are more dog grooming shops in San Francisco per capita than there are schools. It's true. There's more white people in the city. It's becoming, ironically, more white, more rich, and more childless because, families, and not only is it not safe, but you can't afford, it's like $4,000 for a studio apartment in the city. So, it's outrageous. Well, my dad moved, I was born in this area, so it's just, I know everybody here, but we're definitely planning to get out. We're just saving to leave. But it's so expensive to even tread water here that it can take years to save to get out, so.
Incredible. I appreciate the call from San Francisco. She's right, though. At one point, I did a thing on the air. You could take your driver's test in San Diego in 26 different languages. I got a tough enough time just dealing with English. But 26 different languages, well, that's great. You can go out and take your driver's test and do the written and get in the car with the instructor or with the guy that's checking you out. That's all well and good. Then they put somebody with you, when you have to go through the driving part, so you can parallel park and merge and all that. They have to put somebody with you that can speak your language. But they issue driver's licenses in 26 different languages. See, the problem with that is traffic is so bad. It's bumper to bumper morning drive for 6 hours. Same thing in the afternoon. The road signs are only in English. So it's not uncommon to see a car in the far left lane, which could be 5-6 lanes over, go all the way across because they can't read the signs. Listen, get out of San Francisco as quick as you can. Allowing illegals to vote. That's the underpinning of a democracy. The underpinning of a democracy are the citizens of that democracy being able to go vote into office for representation, those people that they have vetted, that they have chosen to carry on a quality of life. Why would you give that to somebody that's not even a citizen? All right, 17 minutes after the hour, 1-800-288-WBAP. That's 1-800-288-9227, or should I say, 1-800-UNO, dos, tres, cuatro, six. I'm sorry, that's it. If you don't speak English, I guess you're out of luck, because I can't do that. Greg in Dallas. Greg, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Greg?
Hi, Rick. I'm fine, thanks. I'm a lawyer in Dallas, and I know you used to be a lawyer, too.
Yep.
And I just wanted to point out, for what it's worth, that this story about what California is doing is being misrepresented. And, in fact, it was first reported in WND, and 2 days ago, the Weekly Standard, which is also a very conservative publication, as you know, published a fact check on it, and it says, is there any truth to these claims? And the answer was not even close. What the law does is if you have a driver's driver's license, and when you go to renew it, the DMV transmits the information to the Secretary of State of California unless you opt out. All right. So all right, and then the Secretary of State verifies citizenship and will register you to vote if they've gotten the transmission. However, when you apply for a license under California, a driver's license under California's program, and you can't prove U.S. citizenship, I mean, you have to either give them a birth certificate which shows that you were born in a foreign country or you have to show your passport from that foreign country. So when undocumented or illegal or whatever you want to call them immigrants get their driver's licenses under the California program, it is known at that point whether they are citizens or not. And that information is stored with the Secretary of State. Then when they go renew their licenses, if they don't opt out and the thing gets transmitted to the Secretary of State, the Secretary of State looks at the list and said, aha, they registered with their Mexican passport to get a driver's license, so they will not be put on the voting rolls. So this was only reported in WND, the New American, and the Daily Mail, and it's not true.
Okay, first of all, you're wrong on several counts. As a matter of fact, if you had a couple days, we could go to California, and I could show you exactly what's going on. What you have said would be great if it worked that way in every case. Sam Manhood is the Secretary of State spokesman. He says, as is already required by federal law, anyone who registers to vote at the DMV must attest under penalty of perjury that they meet the eligibility requirements, including citizenship. They must attest. Not every DMV is working, as you have pointed out. If they were, this wouldn't even be a story. Moreover, under state law, the DMV is prohibited from sending to the Secretary of State any information from anyone who applies for an AB 60 California driver's license. AB 60 refers to the 2015 state legislation that allowed illegals to obtain driver's license. And I know because I was there broadcasting out of San Diego and fought against it with a lot of people, especially fighting against Gray Davis. Some argue that the voter fraud concerns are overblown, and I would assume that you are one of those. Kathy, I can't recall her last name, but she's the executive director of California Common Cause. It's known as CCC. It's supposed to be a nonpartisan voting rights advocacy group. They say, we've got all kinds of confidence this new registration process will not open the door to widespread fraud. There's real interest in making sure there are clear signals when people are filling out the DMV form. If they're asked if they're 18, if they're U.S. citizens, they don't move on their voter registration if they're not eligible. Well, if you can guarantee that 100%, you're right, this thing can't be manipulated. But you can't make that guarantee, nor can she. They argue that most immigrants would not want to risk their chances of legalizing their status, or in the case of people, I guess, who have a green card, becoming naturalized. If things worked 100% as they're supposed to work, that would be great. But they know exactly what they're doing. I know because I fought the state legislature there in Sacramento over Megan's Law 100 times. Oh, it's too expensive. We can't afford that. That's not something Californians want to spend money on. Really? Okay, tell me what the cost of a child's innocence is, and I'll raise the money. While I appreciate the fact that you're informed, you're not accurate, not in every case. And they've been doing it since 2015. It's, I'm sorry. It just doesn't work in practice the way it should. Not in every case. They visited DMV offices for the sole purpose of trying to figure out, observe, if you will, how workers there handled undocumented immigrants. And I'm sorry, it didn't work out. There are thousands and thousands of DMV workers across California. It's a big state. They're not all trained. There's no actual protection to prevent non-citizens from being added to voter rolls. It's not even that people who are ineligible want to be registered. They probably don't. They might, in some cases, don't even know that they have to select opt out, especially if English is not their first language. Alex Padilla, he's the California Secretary of State, supposedly the top election official. He says there's all kinds of safeguards. We don't need to worry about this. And besides that, federal limits apply. Legal immigrants don't care about federal limits. He was asked for specific examples of the safeguards. He couldn't provide any. I mean, and that's the Secretary of State. I lived there and worked there for 17 years, flying back and forth from here to there every 10 days. And, they've got an answer for everything. It just doesn't work that way. California license also indicates it's not supposed to be used for identification outside California. That doesn't work either. But I do appreciate your input. I just wish it worked the way you think it does. All right. Okay. I'm way late. 3:25 the time. Your call straight ahead. All right. 3:33 the time. That last call was good. I like those. Because the guy was plugged in. But what he was talking about, unless I'm mistaken, I'm pretty sure he was talking about another bill. I've seen reports. The state of California is automatically registering voters to vote Democrat. Well, it wouldn't surprise me, but that's not what they're doing. They're just blurring the lines between citizens and non-citizens, as they always do. I mean, you work there and you see it every single day. There's another bill, SB 60 was the one that gave illegals driver's licenses. That's the one we fought against Governor Gray Davis on. The premise of the claim centers on two California laws. First, under AB 1461, eligible voters who go to the DMV to get a new driver's license, they also do a state-issued ID. Their information's automatically sent to the Secretary of State's office, where the information is supposed to be verified, and their name's added to the voter rolls. You can opt out if you want to. But supposedly, the reason the state is defending itself, well, we meet federal and California voting eligibility requirements. Well, it's all right there in black and white. There's actually was a lawsuit. I don't know the particulars of it. Eligible voters to get to register via mail when they renew their licenses through the mail system. That also pushed up the date when AB 1461 would be implemented I think it's April 1st. Well, it is April 1st, April Fool's Day, and how apropos, from January of 2020. And of course, then you take into consideration AB 60 that allows to get a driver's license regardless of your immigration status, a breeder document. It's, all an undocumented immigrant has to do to prove their California residency and pass a series of tests say, yes, I'm doing that to be granted a driver's license. It's a pretty lame system, but it's California. The law also instructs, now this is when they start wordsmithing, and I know because that's what I do for a living. They instruct non-citizens to complete the voter registration portion of the form. All right. So you walk in. Hey, Hernandez, how you doing? Yeah. Don't, it says right there, don't complete the voter registration portion of the registration that you're filling out. So neither the law in question automatically registers undocumented immigrants or non-citizens to vote. It's just a way to manipulate the system. Because a lot of people are afraid, and rightfully so, because they live in California and they see how lame it is, in just about everything, politically speaking. Non-citizens are going to slip through the cracks. Well, it's not really a crack. It's more like you took the door off the hinges. But the state has said there are safeguards in place to prevent that. So, I mean, it is California. You're not going to change it. The California Secretary of State, Padilla, He said, we built the protocols and firewalls to not register people that aren't eligible, and we'll keep those firewalls in place. Okay. How about this? How about you just don't give illegals driver's licenses in the first place? Well, we've already been doing that since 2015, and they have. Gray Davis was just the first step, and getting rid of him simply delayed the inevitable. But yeah, if you go by the law, strictly by the letter of the law, and don't do and all the DMV people are trained, and all the illegals, stop where it says, if you're a non-citizen, don't fill out this portion. As long as all those things are done, you're good. You're good. Yeah, not a problem. Nothing to see here. Lucy in McKinney. Lucy, thanks for waiting.
Sure. Hey, Rick, I was thinking, if they're doing this stuff that sounds pretty illegal to me, how about let's just disqualify California from participating in our elections, like U.S. elections? I'm serious.
Their economy's too big, number one, and they are protected because the way this thing has been put together, they can simply point to say, well, look, it says right there, non-citizens don't fill out this portion. AB 60 is in place. It's law. You're not going to change that. The Assembly Bill 1461, I think it is already, it's already weathered a lawsuit. So, there's no way to do that. I mean, these guys work all day on trying to figure out how to get through a loophole, and they've done it.
Now, maybe there's maybe there's things we could do, like, have an inspector general for voting and have, I'm serious. I think when it comes to something like this, especially since you said, this could be the beginning of the end of our democracy with this kind of stuff. And I believe you. I think that is possible. And the other thing is, if they declare themselves a sanctuary state, well, to me, that's like a big red no, and we should disqualify them from voting in national elections for that in itself.
Well, we will see where that goes as far as their sanctuary cities, and to say California is a sanctuary state is not too much of a stretch. I think they ought to be denied federal funding. I think, if you're not going to obey the it was just like the governor of Arizona. Her name escapes me all the time. But what was it? Okay, forgive me. In any case, at one point, Phoenix became the kidnapping capital of the Northern Hemisphere. So many illegals were coming over, so many drug dealers were coming over, and she asked the federal government to do the job that they are charged with doing, and they wouldn't. And she went to them like 3 different times, so finally she just codified a federal law to a state level and did it herself, and for her trouble, she got sued by the federal government.
Yeah, I remember that. Again, it's funny how they pick and choose what laws they want to uphold. You remember Defense of Marriage Act was a law, and under Clinton, I believe, and then Obama decided that he didn't want to, we don't believe in that, so we're not gonna follow that. And then, of course, they proceeded to have the Supreme Court vote in favor of gay marriage.
Right.
So it's funny how it's like when they want to have something uphold, like when they want to have you, support something, they're like, hey, this should be a law. But then when they don't like something, oh, this is a law, but we don't support it. So it's not. It's so cockamamie, So
no, it is. Well, I was there, as a matter of fact, in California. They asked the voters, not once, not twice, but 3 times, I believe, definitely twice, I believe 3 times, the definition of marriage. And they said 1 woman, 1 man. Well, they just, every time the results of the vote came back, they just kept tabling it and bringing it up for another vote until they got what they wanted. At that point, people were throwing up their hands and saying, man, you've asked me the same thing 3 times. It's the same answer. And they didn't get what they wanted, so they just kept voting until they did. It's a great state for talk radio, but man, to try and live and work there, I used to read the names of child molesters on the air. It's called Rick's Top 10. And I worked with Matthew Checky's parents and Megan Kanka's parents and Stephanie Schmidt's parents and just on and on and on. And, as far as releasing sex offenders back into the neighborhood, we had some, pretty promising laws based on that. And I went to the state legislature, I think at least a half a dozen times on this, and they said, no, it's too expensive. We can't do this. We can't do that. It took forever. And it wasn't until they could come up with another profit line for the individual cities to keep the CD-ROMs of the sex offenders before they did it. You can't shame those people into doing the right thing.
Very sad.
Yeah, it is. It is sad. It's sad that a state in the United States gets to that point. But their illegal immigration population is just overwhelming. They've got a place in San Diego called Tecate Canyon and some other canyons. And theyese are places where they've got little paths you can walk and so on. But, you can face up to hundreds of dollars of fines if you step off the path onto something called mesa mint. It's an endangered species. You and I can't do it. But thousands of seasonal workers picking strawberries up in Carlsbad, they can camp out, open toilets, prostitutes, everything you can imagine. And of course, the bleeding hearts, well, they're these poor homeless seasonal, they're not homeless. They got nice homes. They just happen to be in a different country. They came up here to get the money and they send it back home. They got very nice homes. All right. I appreciate the call very much. 3:43 the time. More of your calls straight ahead. All right. 3:48 the time. I'm Rick Roberts. You're in the Court of Public Opinion on News Talk 820 WBAP. I don't even know what to say. I don't know. I guess if government works 100% of the time, you got nothing to worry about with California allowing illegals to vote. Yeah, but the problem is we both know that's not going to happen. AB 60 gives illegals driver's licenses in the state of California. And while the state has not passed any law that also provides them, by the way, the reports of, they are automatically registering illegals to vote Democrat. That's not true. That's not true. The new Motor Voter Act was passed in an effort, they say, to improve voter turnout. And while it doesn't automatically register citizens to vote when they obtain or renew driver's license, that action only applies to citizens who have already attested, I hate that word, attested and or documented an eligibility to vote. Yeah. We'll take a look at it in 12 months' time and see if it's worked that way. Come on. We're not stupid. Laws are there. They're in black and white, and on paper, they work 100% of the time. They don't work in practice 100% of the time. Justice and the legal system have very little to do with each other. Tommy in Mesquite. Oh, by the way, Brewer. It was, now I've forgotten it again. Governor of Texas, or governor of
former
Arizona.
Governor of Arizona.
Yes. What's her first name again?
Jan Brewer.
Jan Brewer. That's what it is. One of my emailers gave me that. I appreciate that. I got a brain freeze. I should know. She got sued by the federal government for doing their job. Tommy in Mesquite. Tommy, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm awesome, Rick. Thanks for taking the call.
You bet.
Why can't we take a page out of the Dems playbook and take them to court? It's not constitutional. They did it to us.
Well, what are you speaking of specifically?
Well, on SB4. When SB4, the Dems took it to court.
Okay, so
right?
You're saying you want to go to court?
That's what I think they ought to do. I don't know who, but yeah, they ought to tie it up.
Okay, so
they did it to us.
You're talking about SB4 in Texas, right?
Yes, sir.
It forces the government, local governments, to do the work of federal immigration law. This is the status of SB4 might be kind of dicey if you were trying to sue somebody. Well, I talked to Dan Patrick, not too long ago, and they've already sent out tons of letters on this thing. I mean, they're doing everything they can.
Yeah, but like I said, with California, well, why can't we find a judge?
Find a judge?
Find a judge.
Yeah.
Said just like they did. I mean, that's exactly what they did to us.
I think we need to start putting ads in the paper for judges that are at least informed about what the situation is. Yeah, I think you're right, Tommy. I appreciate the call very much. Jack in Springtown. Jack, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Jack?
Rick, what a pleasure and honor it is to finally talk to you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I've got you fine.
Say, I wanted to address that attorney that called in from California and explain to him, and I think maybe you might benefit, explain to him the difference between legality and reality. And the reality, you've spent 32 minutes explaining legislation and statutes, and he called, and I listened to that and giggled. The difference between legality and reality is you can go to Dallas, Texas right now, and you can buy a California driver's license with a Social Security card for $500. Then you can go to California and you've got a good license and a Social Security card, and you can vote all you want to. How about that? What do you think about that, Rick?
I think it's a reality, and we need to do everything we possibly can do to protect the integrity of all elections in this country, because in many cases that's the only thing that separates us from a third world country banana republic.
That's exactly correct. But people don't understand reality. Corruption is so hard to fight. I mean, we've been fighting the Clintons for 40 years, and you can't fight the corruption. We have to find some type of checks and balances or multiple types of voter registration or ID to where we can get a grip on it. Otherwise, we can't control it, Rick.
No, we can't, and we will continue that long slide towards socialism or worse. I mean, I'm not a sky is falling kind of guy. I'm just not. I'm a realist, and as I said before, although I never practiced criminal law at all, justice and the legal system have very, very little to do with one another.
That's a fact. Ain't that a fact? Let's talk briefly about the shutting down the government. They laid off 800,000 inessential personnel, non-essential personnel in 2013 when Obama wanted to show us that he could shut it down. What did that number grow to when it was shut down last week? And if these people are non-essential, why don't we get them into essential jobs, or why don't we take the 200,000 homeless veterans, put them into Veterans Affairs, and make them essential?
Well, here's the deal. They don't call it laid off. They call it furloughed because, I've heard people, the military's not getting paid. These people aren't getting paid. Nobody's getting paid. That's not true. Congress changed that in 2013. They're still getting paid. The checks may be a little late, but they're still getting paid. When it comes to, we need to open up this country to more refugees. We need to be a more benevolent society, blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you what. When there's not one veteran in need of physical care, medical care, when there's not one veteran's family living on food stamps, not one veteran standing in a soup line waiting to eat, not one veteran living under an overpass somewhere, when there's no veterans doing any of that, then you can come talk to me about more refugees. I mean, we send more money to more countries that absolutely hate everything about this country and vote against us every time they can at the UN. Please don't tell me about what we need to do to be helping more people. We haven't even helped people that we signed a contract with that were willing to give up their lives if they had to. They didn't want to, but they were willing to take that risk. We haven't even kept our agreement with them. Now you want to talk to me about bringing more people in? No, I don't think so.
I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
All right, 4:04 the time. Glad you're along. It's California. What do you expect? Well, what do you expect? You have little kids. You have children in the home. I mean, what do you expect from a state that uses the gender unicorn to teach kids as young as 4 through 11 what's your gender identity? Female, woman, girl, male, man, boy, other genders? Gender expression, feminine, masculine, other, sex assigned at birth, physically attracted to, other. Yeah, it's the gender unicorn, if you don't know. Parents, at least there are some parents that are upset. You know, it's not so blasé. They're furious about a California elementary school. You know, we're dealing with, the genius at Fort Worth Independent School District trying to figure out what bathrooms the kids can go to. Yeah, that's another show in itself. In California, they're furious about the gender unicorn. You know what the gender unicorn is, Randy? Have you heard of the gender unicorn?
No, I didn't think there was any such of a thing as a unicorn.
Oh, yes, there's a gender unicorn.
What are they smoking out there?
Just about anything they want.
That's illegal.
Well, the parents are upset. The elementary school, Rancho Romero Elementary School, they posted a bulletin board that addresses issues like, well, sexual identity. You know, I must have really been out of the loop when I was a kid. I was putting baseball cards in the spokes of my bicycle at 12, making it sound like a motorcycle. I wasn't, too obsessed with sexual identity. They're encouraging kids as young as 4 years old to break out of those gender stereotypes. And again, I'm in kindergarten. What am I doing? At graham cracker time, I'm biting off the corners of my graham cracker to make it look like a gun so we can play cowboys and Indians.
Did it shoot crumbs?
I don't know. I wasn't worried about gender stereotypes.
I knew I liked girls back in kindergarten.
Did you really?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, see? Weirdo. It also features nationally syndicated sex columnist Dan Savage. And I can't even on the radio tell you about this guy because we have standards. And if I violate them, I sit home and listen to somebody else do my show. He also hosts an annual porn festival, if that tells you anything. For him to be a role model of 4-year-olds, yeah, well, that's... the bulletin board includes his photo. He does have clothes on in this photo, along with the following quote. A lot of kids are bullied because of their sexual identity or expression. It's often the effeminate boys and the masculine girls, the ones who violate gender norms and expectations, get bullied. Well, he's bullied Christian teenagers, and I can't even say what he's done. But evidently in California, he and the gender unicorn are part of the bulletin boards that they put in the elementary schools. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I must have been way out of the loop because, at 4 years old, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I wasn't even thinking about this. So there you go. What do you expect? So licenses for illegals is probably the least of their problem when it comes to this kind of stuff. All right. I promoted this, and we're going to talk about it. What do you do? What do you do if you're a conservative state and you're tired of the same-sex marriage argument and you don't want to go along with it? What do? You get rid of marriage licenses entirely. I'll tell you who that is and where it's happening. I'll do that next. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Let's go to John in Euless. John, thanks for waiting. How you doing, John?
I'm all right. I was driving here earlier, and you were on the radio and talking about how nutty California is. And I lived in California, Livermore, which is a bit east of San Francisco, and I left there in 2000. But what I wanted to get to was I had an acquaintance, a friend from Hungary that had never been to the U.S. before, and I said, well, she was a student. And I said, well, if you come out during the summer, you got a place to stay, and I'll have a little car here. You can go knock around, see some of the country, and save money. So she took me up on it. She arrived in Livermore. Here I had this little Mazda GLC. Here it is. Now let me make sure everything's right. Let me see your driver's license. So she brought along one of these international driver's licenses. I said, that's no good. Where's your Hungarian license? That'll work here. She says, I left it back in Hungary. I said, well, I can't let you go driving. So to cut to the chase, I made a few phone calls, wound up going down to the Pleasanton DMV, where, very clear, she is a visitor here for a couple of months. That's it. She wants a driver's license. Sit down here, young lady. She didn't know English very well. Oh, we have a Hungarian version already there. So she sat down there, and they gave her the Hungarian test, and just like that, she had a California driver's license.
Yeah, as long as you've got money, you can get anything you want in California.
Well, I didn't spend a bunch of money. I didn't do that.
Well, you weren't from Hungary either, were you?
No, but she was.
No, that's my point. Why do you think they gave driver's licenses? I mean, think about, just for a second, wrap your head around that. Why would you give a non-citizen a driver's license?
Well, a permanent resident alien is a non-citizen. A green card holder is a non-citizen.
Correct.
And if they want to drive, and they have to in the USA, then they must have a driver's license.
Well,
a driver's license is not proof of citizenship.
No, it's not. In the program's first year in California, nearly half of all California driver's licenses went to illegal aliens. Over about 830,000 illegals have got licenses since they started this thing in January of 2015. The first day they were available.
Yeah, but this is 26 years ago, and they were doing this.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of 26, they give the test in 26 different languages, so you can have all kinds of friends from all over the place, and they can help them out. California's got how many millions of illegals? 15, 16, 17, 18. About 2 years ago, it was over 2.5 million, the nation's largest group. And the Department of Motor Vehicles, they prepped for this onslaught. Among other things, they hired about 1,000 temporary employees, extended office hours, opened 4 driver license processing centers, including one in Stanton, I guess. It was a major deal, and it was majorly profitable as well. I look at this and I think, I don't get it. One guy said, I've paid my dues. I've been a model citizen. I don't feel I should have to wait in line for hours behind people that just got here, and they're here illegally. They can't speak the language, so everything's taking twice as long. Try doing that in Mexico or anywhere else. Go to France and try this. It's crazy. They did an interview with Miriam Alvarez Hernandez. She's 43. And she wouldn't say exactly where, just Santa Ana is where she resides. And she said, before I used to drive only when absolutely necessary. I also feel more like a part of the community. Well, then get your papers in order, and you can be an American citizen. How about that? As part of the law to let these illegals get licenses, the DMV engaged in a huge information campaign So forget about the billboards in El Salvador and Ecuador and all of that saying, come to America, the land of milk and honey. They do it in California all the time. All the time. It just, you're right. You're absolutely right. The sovereignty, sanctity, and security of a nation hangs in the balance, and nobody seems to care. All right, 20 minutes after the hour. All right. Well, now we're going to have to talk about, oh gosh, I'm going to make the gays mad at me, the LGBT, ABCDEFG, or whatever it is. All right. You know, I mean, I don't care. You know, my position, people have asked me, you know, what do you think about the gay agenda? You know, as long as nobody's forcing me in a corner, I don't really care who you're sleeping with any more than you care who I sleep with. You know, if you're going to talk legislatively and you want to start changing, you know, public policy and what we historically have, you know, embraced as relationships in the country, that's a different thing. You know, I mean, probably one of my best friends in San Diego was the head DA. Bonnie DeManis. You know, she oversees one of the largest district attorney's offices in the nation. And I supported her during the campaign to unseat the incumbent because he was a jerk. He was a good old boy. And the rank and file, the assistant DAs in the trenches, you know, wanted her. And yeah, she's gay. She and Leslie have been together 30 years or 40 years. I don't know, something like that. But we just never broached the topic a whole lot because it didn't matter to either one of us. Well, in Alabama, things are a little different. The lawmakers in Alabama may be waving a white flag, not a rainbow flag, in the culture wars. They're pushing a bill that would eliminate marriage licenses entirely. Just get rid of them. In turn, they say it would help judges trying to avoid the gay marriage debate in a very, very, very conservative state. No one especially likes the change in the law. The bill sponsors, I don't even know his last name. He's a Republican state senator. He said in an interview that under the circumstances, it's the best thing we can do as a state. And when I first heard this, I thought, well, hang on a second. You know, hang on just a minute. He denies any attempt at denigrating marriage. He said that's not what it's about. He said some social conservative critics are saying just that. It denigrates marriage. The state of Alabama would do away with marriage licenses entirely just so they don't have to deal with the issue of gay marriage. You know, they say it's a practical solution for the state in response to the Supreme Court striking down gay marriage bans. What was it, 2014? I don't remember the case, but I think it was 2014. He said, we would not have changed this had it not been for that Supreme Court decision. But without the change, the law remains in conflict. So we've got to make some changes to the law to be in compliance. Well, that's a fancy attorney way of saying, we don't want to do what the Supreme Court has ruled, therefore we just won't do anything. I mean, that's basically what it is. Alabama's state law has long, just like other states, has defined marriage as between one man and one woman. And it's given probate judges discretion in issuing marriage licenses. Well, because of the Supreme Court lawsuit, or the Supreme Court ruling on this lawsuit, they can't do that anymore. What was that case? Oberfil? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But when that thing was ruled on about 4 years ago, then the Alabama Supreme Court Justice, here's a name you'll remember, Roy Moore, he instructed probate judges to use their power to deny same-sex couples marriage certificates. So what happened? Well, besides getting suspended from the court, they became a target because of what they were trying to do. Well, the legislation was approved by the Senate in Alabama It would end the practice of probate judges issuing marriage licenses to anyone. Gay, straight, short, tall, fat, thin, black, white. Nobody gets one. Nobody. The bill is now headed to the House, where it's being considered in committee, I think, today, as a matter of fact. The Republican sponsor said he's unaware of other states that have taken similar steps. You know, Alabama's not the only state trying to deal with this issue. In Kentucky, remember the county clerk, Kim Davis, refused to issue a marriage license to a gay couple. It was a big news story. Some are looking at this as a way to protect local probate judges from being forced to issue gay marriage licenses, which they say is morally and politically, it's problematic for a lot of them. So we're going to find out what you think. The fact that it passed the Senate on the first day with almost no opposition gives it a pretty good chance of becoming law through the House. So how about that? Is that the answer? I don't believe that gays should be married. Okay, well, you're free to believe whatever you want to believe, but then you take the next step to the legal ramifications. What about a very conservative state like Alabama? Well, just don't issue a marriage license to anyone. Gay, straight, bisexual, transsexual, tricycle, whatever they are. Nobody gets one. Is that the way to deal with this? I mean, seriously. That way, nobody gets one. You don't have to deal with the issue. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. We'll find out what you think next. Forget about gay marriage. We just won't issue marriage licenses to anyone. You won't need a marriage license in the state of Alabama. How about that? Does that work? For the time, good afternoon. Glad you're along. So, 2 guys want to get married, 2 girls want to get married, a guy and a girl want to get married, transsexual, bisexual, tricycle, whatever. They all want to get married. Well, in the state of Alabama, they're hoping that they don't have to trouble the probate judge to make a distinction, because they've passed a bill. It passed the Senate. Now it goes to the House. Passed the Senate on the first day with almost no opposition, so it's got a pretty good chance of becoming law. The bill doesn't stop the state from recognizing marriages. All right, okay? The state still has to recognize a marriage, whether it's straight or gay. Marriages would still be recorded by the state when couples file an affidavit with the judge. It removes the discretion from the judge. So the judges can no longer say yes or no. So he took the decision away from the judges. Meanwhile, the move has generated a lot of pushback from social conservatives who say it amounts to giving up the fight for traditional marriage. Well, that's their choice. That's their choice. They don't want to fight that battle? Fine. Let people file an affidavit. The state has to recognize you're married, whether it's to another guy or another woman. Most proposed legislation to replace state marriage licenses with private contracts, you need to take a stand. Some people would say, well, Roy Moore, for instance, he said, you need, what about the holy matrimony and defending our laws as defined by God in the Constitution? Well, why is the government involved with that? It should be a state church thing or a church state thing. Some liberals have accused Republicans of backing the measure to basically spite gay couples and avoid having to consent to their marriage. So you're going to lose some on the far left and on the far right. It's just going to happen. If you disagree on it, you disagree, but it doesn't mean you can't accomplish the same thing. So they're predicting in Alabama it's going to pass. The fact that it passed, like I said, the Senate on the first day, gives it a pretty good chance of passing. So, is that the way to deal with this? Judges that don't want to get involved in saying yes or no to 2 men or 2 women or whatever, you just take it out of their hands and say, we're not going to issue marriage licenses to anyone. The state will recognize your marriage if you're already married, whether it's gay, straight, or anything else, but we're not going to take part in it, so file an affidavit if you want. Let's go to Bill in Frisco. Bill, thanks for waiting. I appreciate it. How you doing, Bill?
We're hanging in there. Traffic's not too bad, which is a plus.
Good.
So, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I don't understand what business it is in the States who gets married and who doesn't anyway. Keep them out of it. We don't need a license. If you look at the history of this thing, it goes back to the 20s and 30s progressive eugenics movement. The whole idea of a state license to get married was to keep people of color from marrying people of non-color.
Right.
The blood test was there to make sure that you weren't an undesirable who's going to be breeding. And it also protects the churches. If it's just an affidavit sent to the state, they can't have, you can't have people going after churches the way you see them going after the bakers and the photographers and everything else.
Well, so what are you saying? What the end result?
I think it's the right move.
Well, so basically, you just get rid of the licenses altogether.
Yeah, I think that's a great national move to make. Like you said, if two people if two guys want to get married, let them get married secular. Recognize it in the state, but keep it out of the faith-based tradition. Let people's faith tradition dictate who can get married and who can't.
Yeah, I got you. Makes sense. I appreciate it. Let's go to Jordan and Keller. Jordan, thanks for waiting. What do you think, Jordan? Just get rid of marriage licenses altogether?
Last caller, I think it's actually an opportunity for the church to reclaim a tradition. I know when I got married at 19, I wasn't celebrating the license itself or the fact that I had to go down and file with the county and the city and do all that. I was celebrating coming together with my wife in unity before God. So for me, I see it as an opportunity for the church to reclaim a ceremony that is sacred to the people who believe in marriage and coming together before God. And it takes the true separation of church and state there. It doesn't allow the government to dictate to my father, who is a pastor, or any other pastor, what ceremonies they do and do not have to perform in order for them to be equally recognized. Being a veteran myself, I think that everybody should have the right to do just about whatever they want, as long as they're not harming or and imposing on somebody else's way of life. So if two men want to enter a relationship, that's great, but don't force somebody who, like my father, who's a pastor, to take part in or be an instrumental part of that coming together.
I'm a believer that pastors and churches shouldn't have to take part if they don't want to. I mean, if it goes against their religious beliefs or part of their doctrine, I don't think they should be forced by the government or the state or anybody else to make that move. But to compensate for that, what are you saying? The government gets out of it altogether?
Yeah, I don't think the government should have any reason to, other than filing for your taxes. What need does the government have to be involved in the institution of marriage?
Well, someone brought up, as a matter of fact, we were talking off the air, what about next of kin and the issues that come up with that? Well, if you go to the Family Law Act of 1975, two adult persons living together as a couple who are not married or even related by family, if none of those describes your relationship, you can appoint them as your next of kin. But you have to do all this in advance, which gives you the same benefit as being married, except you got to fill out more paperwork.
Well, and the other side of that, though, Rick, like my cousin, who is a non-believer, he's been with his partner for 9 years. It's a man and a woman. They just decided to never get married, but they're still recognized as common law partners.
Well, yeah.
I think in Minnesota, they don't even call it common law marriage anymore. They're just common law partners.
Right. Well, common law partners, common law marriage, what have you. But there are issues that arise out of unions like that. Look, this is what it's all about. Again, we were having this discussion off air. If you can accomplish the same pragmatic things like taxes and next of kin and last wishes with a living will, if you can accomplish the same thing through another union, then why marriage? And what it boils down to me, when I look at everything legally, if you can do the same thing, then it's a matter of validation, isn't it?
Yeah, it really and truly, that's all it is. It's a matter of validation. I agree.
I mean, even people that don't have any next of kin can appoint somebody, a de facto partner, if you will. So if you can accomplish the same stuff, and I'm talking about the paperwork, the sole survivor and medical benefits and
beneficiaries,
tax consequences, then it all boils down to validation. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, and if you look at the LGBTQ2AS, there's so many, I can't even name them all anymore. But the whole movement as a whole, it's about shirking the social norms. So what is their desire to be married, knowing that the history comes from the church? Part of me, and there's probably nothing to back this up. Part of me believes that them wanting to be married, them wanting to be a part of this, especially with what we see in the news with the bakers, photographers being forced or being sued because they don't partake in their ceremonies, is kind of to rob us who do believe in the sanctity of marriage and the religious importance of it, is to rob us of some of that.
Yeah. Well, I look at it this way, and I know, I'm in commercial radio. This isn't the God hour and all of that. But I believe in God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. And, I try not to force that down anybody's throat. So when somebody asks me, well, what do you think? I don't know. I'm going to let God sort out all this, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, whether it's genetic, whether it's chosen. I don't know. And at the end of the day, I probably am better off not knowing whether it's genetic or whether it's chosen or whether they could change. I don't have any clue. All I know is what I read in the Bible, and I try to do as good as I can and fall short of that many, many times. When it comes to trying hashing out, well, why is he gay? Why is she a lesbian? Why is this? Why is that? I think God will figure that out on his own. He doesn't need me messing in something I know nothing about. And there's no, concrete scientific evidence anyway. I think it's probably both. I think it's both perhaps chosen and genetic. I don't know. I just know, what works for me as a Christian. Therefore, if somebody says, well, are two men or two women or whatever combination you want, is that traditional marriage? No, that's not traditional marriage. That's not marriage as defined by Christianity, so therefore it's not marriage to me. And what does that mean? Am I going to disrespect somebody like that? Of course not. Just because you don't understand or you don't know or you don't agree does not mean you get to suspend respect for another human being, period. You just don't. You judge people by their character and, the right and wrong of the relationship. That's all it is. These idiots that are running around with baseball bats, let's find some homosexuals. I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, they're idiots. But as far as taking pride in gay pride parade, am I going to take part in that? Of course not. I don't believe in it. But that doesn't mean I get to automatically dismiss respect and appropriate behavior around anybody like that. I would hope it works like a two-way street. So anyway, that's my answer for what it's worth. 4:46 the time. Now watch, somebody will construe from that, something untoward.
Hater.
Their belief. Yeah. I'll have, effigies of Rick Roberts hanging from the rafters out here at the American Airlines Center. I didn't say anything like that. What I said was, number one, I don't think you ought to be screwing around with kids at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old about, well, do you feel like you're the victim of a sexual stereotype? Well, they didn't understand, 9/10 of the words in that sentence. Leave them alone, man. Let them be kids for as long as they can. I don't think you ought to be messing with that. I think, the Fort Worth Independent School District superintendent needs some counseling of his own. Well, if Johnny gets up in the morning and feels like Sally, he can use the girls' bathroom. No, he can't. He can either hold it, go at home, or go in the boys' bathroom, shut the stall door, and go to the bathroom. I'm not sending my kid to school to be socialized under some type of sexual stereotype. That's insane. You know, I mean, what was it I read the other day? One of these New York psychobabble experts came out with, there are 126 different sexual behaviors. What? What are you talking about? I don't know. It just seems to me people hold themselves out to be experts on a lot of stuff they don't know about. And if you don't know about it, shut up. Oh, man. Here we go. A question about whether alleged payments were made to a porn star may be part of Mueller's Russian investigation. Well, there you go. You know, it's like as the world turns or something. Listen, that's going to do it for me. We will pick up this sometime during tomorrow's show. I know a ton of you wanted to get in on this. Alabama trying to get rid of marriage licenses altogether so the conservative state just simply doesn't have to deal, or the judges, more specifically, the probate judges, don't have to deal with issuing licenses to same-sex couples. So, good idea, bad idea. We'll find out what you think tomorrow. Stick around. Mark Levin, he's next. I'm sure he's upset about something. I can almost guarantee it. I'll be with you tomorrow at 2 o'clock, your afternoon drive. God's blessings on each and every one of you, whether we agree or not. That's always the priority. I'm Rick Roberts, the Court of Public Opinion on News Talk, 820 WBAP.
In one of them old farm towns where they hit it hard till the sun goes down. Nobody really seemed to care that we were living in the middle of nowhere. We just figured that's how it was, and everybody else was just like us, soaking in the rain, baking in the sun. Don't quit till the job gets done. That's the only way I know. Don't stop till everything's gone.